Welcome to the Kinda Krunchy podcast, where we talk about all things health and wellness. We can't wait for you to hear today's episode, so let's get to it. Welcome to the Kinda Krunchy podcast, where we talk about all things health and wellness. We can't wait for you to hear today's episode, so let's get to it. Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Kinda Krunchy podcast. It is me, Rachel, one half of the podcasting duo here today. Jensen is not joining us. Her and I have both had a lot of life happenings going on, and it's been hard to find a time to schedule in this past week to podcast together. So I am taking a solo episode just for today. Next week, we will be back together, recording, and back to the normal schedule. But for this week, it's just going to be me. So we will see how this goes. I've done this once before when Jensen was not feeling well, and it is tough to do on your own to podcast like this. And that's even coming from me, who is someone that loves to talk and can talk for literally hours. It's hard. Jensen and I are just such a good duo together that I always miss her when I do my own episodes. But I think that it's going to be a very good episode today and full of lots of fun things. I don't think it'll be as long as our normal episodes because it is just me, and I don't think you want to listen to an hour of me. Maybe you do, which is awesome if you do. Thanks. But I think it'll be shorter just because I don't want to just ramble forever. So hopefully I avoid that. But what I'm going to talk about today is I am going to share 5 things. My whole thing today is going to be 5 things. So I'm going to share 5 do's and 5 don'ts of health. But before that, instead of life updates today, I am going to share 5 things that I'm researching, interested in, really just like looking into in the health realm right now. I thought that would be a fun kind of like variant and opener instead of life updates. I'll save those for when Jensen and I record together. So I'm going to get into those. So the first thing of the 5 things that I'm really into right now is kinesiology. So I've always really loved anatomy and physiology, and like the body on a biological and cellular level, just learning about how it works. I've said on here before, if you've listened, I don't even know what episode this was in. In college, I went to Penn State, to a branch campus of Penn State, and I really liked my anatomy and physiology course, and it was a tough one. And so then after I passed it, I was able to work as a tutor for anatomy and physiology for other students and peers. And it was actually a sweet gig because I got paid to do it. And I was basically allowed to just like do my college work while I sat there and got paid, unless someone came in for tutoring. And people like never came for tutoring, but occasionally I would have people. And I love teaching. I actually thought about being a teacher at one point, but wasn't for me. And it was a really cool job. Like that's probably one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. And so, yeah, I still have an anatomy and physiology textbook and read it for fun sometimes and listen to podcasts about that and read about it. And so right now, kinesiology is really just something I've been on a kick with, I guess. I've really been interested in just how like the musculoskeletal system works and applied kinesiology. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. Some of you, I'm sure, know what this is. And at different chiropractor offices, some chiropractors do this. Sometimes with physical therapy, but I don't think as often. They'll like put your arm out or something and kind of like press on it to see the feedback they get and be able to tell you things about your body. It's applied kinesiology muscle testing, and I just think it's really cool because the body's so interconnected, and just learning about the mobilization of joints. Being in the field of occupational therapy for a few years until I got out of it, we did a lot of like range of motion of joints with patients, especially in like outpatient therapy and hospital settings, not so much in the school. So yeah, just like mobilization of joints, the fascia's role in the body. If you don't know what that is, look into the fascia. It's so interesting. It's like the thing that literally connects our whole body. And I actually was listening to a podcast recently about it. And it is the first thing that's formed in like the womb of the body, and then everything's kind of placed within that fascia or connected to it. I just thought that was so interesting. That's like our OG body is the fascia. That's the first thing. And then just like the meridians in the body. So yeah, just all about the body in that way. That's the first thing. The second thing is syncing my health with the moon cycles, which I've talked about this on here too, that my menstrual cycle is synced up to the moon. So when it's a full moon, I'm ovulating. When it's a new moon, I have my period. And I've always just thought that was neat. And I feel very like we're meant to be connected to nature and this earth in certain ways, and that our health kind of is reliant upon like nature and vice versa. We affect this earth affects us sort of. And I just think it's so interesting because I recently, I will link them. I just listened to 2 podcasts on the Wellness Mama podcast of someone talking more about this and about how our sleep schedule should sync with the moon cycles, our eating, our energy levels. Also just about lunar versus Gregorian calendars, and how when you go by the lunar calendar, the Gregorian one, which I hope I'm saying that right, that's the one we use in the United States, it is like a newer method, whereas the lunar was more original, I guess. And the lunar is what they use. I know in China, a lot of people use it. I'm not sure. I know there's other places. I just can't name them for you. But the Gregorian one like cuts some time off. That's why we have a leap year every 4 years, because it's not exact to like the day cycles with the moon, where the lunar one follows the moon cycles. And so I just think that's interesting, because I do feel like our bodies are meant to be synced to that. And yeah, looking more into that. The next thing I kind of mentioned a couple podcasts ago was just water and the life in it and the energy in it. And like, there's different studies of how music affects water. There's one by Dr. Emoto. That sounds like, I don't know, some type of weird kid's doctor on TV, but that's his real name, Dr. Emoto, about how music affects water on like a molecular structural level, which I think is really cool. And just all water's not the same, and there's a different structure of the cells in it. And that structured water is water in its natural state, like flowing from springs in the mountains because it's unaltered and full of life, compared to like when you have bottled water that sat in a bottle for 2 years in a warehouse. Like, they're different waters. And so, yeah, I've just been really researching water. I thought that's interesting. All right, I've only got 2 more, and then I'll get into the do's and don'ts of health. The fourth one is just scratch cooking and making everything homemade, which this isn't entirely new for me. There is this girl on TikTok, her name's Katie Culver, I think, and she like makes things homemade for her family to try to reduce their grocery bill and just be healthier. And I just love that type of content. It's just cozy to me to watch people make stuff and organize and talk about it and like home make. And so, yeah, I shared on here, I got a grain mill. I originally got a hand crank grain mill because I was like, oh, like if the power's ever out or something, I can still use this. I thought it was great. Oh my goodness. My arm was so sore after using it one time, and I got like 1 cup of flour, and it took me forever, and it was still not fine ground enough. And I think that one would have worked better for like corn, for like masa or something. But I ended up returning it because it was just, I wasn't going to use it because it wasn't practical as much as I wished. So I got an electric one, and it works much better. And so that's exciting. If the power goes out, just won't be milling my grain, I guess. I have been making everything kind of homemade though, or trying to source it locally. So the most recent things I've made are pudding. Like, who knew homemade pudding's so easy and tasty compared to like boxed pudding? I feel like some of these things are things you just think like, oh, you buy that in a store. But before we bought them in the store, we made them ourselves. So like, why could we not? And then mozzarella cheese and then cream cheese is next up for me to try to make too. I've told you before, I source local raw milk, and so I get it for a good price, and I use it to make a lot of dairy things and hope to make a lot more in the future. The other thing I'll say on scratch cooking and homemade cooking is I do it because I find it enjoyable and fun, but it is a labor of love, and I understand everyone can't. One of the things I want to hit on is I feel like a lot of people that come to the crunchy lifestyle feel like sourdough's like the slope into it, and feel like they have to do that. And people just make sourdough super complicated and like stressful and confusing. And honestly, like I make sourdough and I love it. And once you get the hang of it, it's not as hard as people make it seem, and it's not as easy to like kill and stuff, I feel like. But honestly, getting yeast and making yeast bread is really easy too, and still like a homemade version of bread. And I just want to advocate for yeast bread is easier sometimes, and my husband likes it better than the sourdough. And yeah, if you're like, oh, I'd like to make some things homemade like from scratch, but I don't have the time to do sourdough for like 2 days straight. Honestly, get some yeast, and it's a few ingredients like flour and yeast and some water and then some type of like butter or oil in there normally. And it's really quicker than sourdough and easy to do. So that might be a way to make a few things more homemade. The last thing is I've just been on this kick with doing kind of like a cleanse diet. The month of February for me was very much like healing focused, and I, to my knowledge right now, am not dealing with any severe health issue that warrants like needing to do this, but I just had a gut feeling like I've been telling some of my friends and stuff, I can't explain it, but I just have felt like in my gut, and there's just been some different things that have happened that I was like, I really need to focus on healing my body. And it wasn't specified to like, I need to heal because I'm sick with this disease. It was just like a knowing of I need to focus on like cleansing and healing my body. I can just tell. I don't know how to explain it. So I was doing really specific targeted fasting because fasting is an amazing tool for cleansing and healing your body in conjunction with a really strict diet. And I've talked on here before about dieting is something that is not healthy for me because I have been too restrictive in the past. And so I try to be very intuitive with my eating and my health and all things related to like that part of my life. But I will use fasting and dieting as health healing tools because I think that nutrition and fasting are two of the biggest things that impact our health and can promote healing in our body, and one of the best proactive ways to attack any type of health issue you're having. And so in February, I did no seed oils, no carbs, no sugars, no caffeine, no processed foods. I was pretty much keto for most of February. Only a few complex carbs, really only locally sourced foods, and I did a lot of things to help reduce inflammation or target cleansing on a cellular level, nutrition-wise. So on days I was eating, I had a lot of dandelion tea, cod liver oil, wild-caught salmon, bone broths, raw milk, green tea, peppermint tea, carrot juice, beet juice, and specific types of mushrooms, and then was doing a lot of lymph detoxing. And it was intense, honestly, but it was really good for me and really positively, like, I feel like my health is in a good place, and it was just a blessing to do that. So yeah, that's a little update on me. Now I'm back to just intuitively eating, not fasting anymore as intensely. With that, I was doing 3 36-hour fasts a week, which was draining. It was a lot of exhaustion because that takes it out of your body. But I feel like that really allowed me to heal. And then on the days that I was eating, I was really like nourishing my body with good foods and lots of nutrient density. And yeah, it was really positive for me. I'm not like advocating for you to go do that right now. That was just for me on like a personal level, what I thought would be best for my body at that time. And like I've said on here before, I do believe like we know our own bodies better than anyone else. So it is good sometimes to just try to be proactive rather than wait and be reactive to situations. So yeah, those are the 5 things I've been into lately. But now I want to get into the episode because I'm going to talk about 5 do's and 5 don'ts of health. So these are just some things I came up with to share with you, and you might agree, you might disagree. I just thought that this would be a fun, like, quick applicable episode hopefully for you. So I'm going to go through and basically just overview each of these. Like I said, I don't know how long this episode will be, but hopefully it's just like quick and helpful. So I'm going to do the 5 do's first. So the first do of health is focus on the basics. I feel like we just get so muddled by all the things we should be doing, like buying this supplement or doing this certain exercise or routine or like this trendy thing. And I feel like health and wellness, the whole space is very trendy right now in general. And focusing on the basics of health is like one of the best things you can do for your health because it is not that complicated. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be stressful. Focus on improving your sleep, your nutrition, your movement, your mental health, and your digestion. And the things to do those, I mean, we have episodes on pretty much all of those topics. The things you can do to improve those do not have to cost money or be that hard. It's just a few habit changes or lifestyle changes, really. So focus on the basics of health is the first do. The second one is spend time in nature. You guys know I'm a big on a nature kick. I don't think it's a kick though. I think it's like a literal lifestyle. Like I just believe that nature is so healing for us, and I feel like that's kind of undeniable. I think most people feel like that. But truly, the sun has so many healing properties for us. Fresh air, grounding, letting our feet touch the earth, the wind, the animals, just the dirt outside. I truly believe they all can be our best healers. I forget where this was, but recently I either heard or read that our ancestors, like back in the day, used to spend upwards of at least 80% of their time outside, and now we spend like less than 5 most days. And I think we'd be amiss to not say, maybe there's some relation there to all the health problems we see today, because it is just crazy how disconnected we are with nature. Like, especially if you think like living in Pennsylvania in the winter, it's cold out. So like it's harder to get outside. It's darker earlier. There are some days where I'm like, have I been outside once today? So spend time in nature. That's the second do of health, and really make that a priority. And I've said before, going on a walk every day for like a half hour to an hour outside without any noise or distraction, just taking in nature and breathing fresh air and feeling the sun on your face and being like meditative with it is one of the best things you can do for your health. And it's free and kind of easy. The third thing you can do for your health is be your own doctor. Now, in saying this, I'm not saying to never go to the doctor. You know that I am very much about balance, but I'm very much about being proactive with our health rather than just reactive. So how can we address things and take care of our body ahead of time so we don't come up with these issues that we're like, okay, let's just throw a pill or medicine at it after the fact without getting to the root of it. And I feel like that happens so much in our culture. And so just really trying to take our health into our own hands. We know our body better than anyone else. Even though doctors have a ton of knowledge and years of studying and learning and practice, they don't know your unique body as well as you do because they don't live in it every day. So, you can tell better than a doctor most of the time when something's off, even if you haven't done the blood work or seen any of these tests. You can know that based on knowing your body and what's going on with it. And that's why I'm such a huge advocate for being in tune with your body. I feel like so often people go through just day to day without paying attention to what is my normal? What's my normal digestion like? What's my normal sleep like? What's my normal menstrual cycle like? My normal mood, like my normal hunger, all these things that are your normal, so that you have a baseline of your health to know when something's abnormal for you. And that way you can look into, how do I try to support my body because this is happening and it's abnormal, or who do I seek out for help because I think this potentially could be an issue I need help with. Yeah, so that's the third do. The fourth do of health is to cut back and live more simply and stop making it all so complicated. And I mean, like, I'm preaching to myself with this one. We all know we live in a culture of consumerism. We have too much, we buy too much, we spend too much time, we spend too much money and energy on things. And just, I think a lot of that would a lot of us would feel better if we just lived a simpler life. And that can be through all facets. I feel like I've really been this year trying to prioritize simplifying my life. So what if we cut back to eating only a few simple foods, what was available and in season at that time, rather than having everything we could ever want to eat and things we didn't even know were foods or existed in the grocery store at our fingertips at all times. Not even in the grocery store, on our phones to order and then drive to the store and get loaded in for us. What if we only wore a few simple clothes that were really quality rather than just having so many options that add to the overwhelm? What if we spent our time doing more simple things and less like constant distraction of this music's playing in the background and this TV is on and this is also happening? Try to stop consuming so much of everything because it's overwhelming our nervous systems. And I feel like this is really one that's coming from a personal place, because I've really been trying to cut back, like, my wardrobe, just my life in general, what I consume and how I consume it, because I found it just adds to a state of overwhelm. And so, yeah, I think stop trying to do it all and have it all, and just cut back and live more simply. And the fifth do of health is to become a student and to love to learn. And this can be about all things in your life, but I'm saying specifically about the body since we're talking about health too. Read online, read books, talk to experts, talk to your doctor, be curious. I think today we all have just become like internet experts where we think we truly know it all, or we're like embarrassed to say, no, I don't know about that. Let me learn more. And I really feel like that's something I have been trying to be better at in my life, is when somebody says like, oh, have you heard about this? Or do you know about this? Rather than just being like, oh yeah, I think I have, saying, no, tell me more about it. People love to talk about things they know and educate other people. And it creates an environment where you can have that almost like bonding with someone where they're able to teach you that thing and you might learn from it. So we don't have to know it all the time. And it is good to try to learn more, even when we feel like we know everything about a subject. Learn to learn about the body and health and what is normal. Watch lectures, YouTube videos, read textbooks, whatever it is. Just, we could all do better at learning more rather than just like letting our brain rot. It's funny, every once in a while, if Logan or I are like laying in the bed on our phones and one of us says to the other one, like, what are you doing? Or laying on the couch or whatever, I will just be like, are you brain rotting? Or I'll say, I'm just brain rotting right now, because it's truly what it is. I'm just laying there letting my brain rot while I scroll mindlessly, and being conscious of that's what I'm doing, I think it's so helpful. Every once in a while, I do need that because I just need that time to kind of decompress. But I think it can be very unhealthy when that's like regular in your life. Okay, So now I'm going to get into the 5 don'ts of health. So again, these are things I thought of and my opinion. You might disagree, and that is fine. These are just things I think would be good not to do to be your healthiest self. So the first one is don't invest a bunch of money in products. I'm talking the supplements, the oils, the cleanses, etc. Stop getting scammed. Like, it's not all a scam, because here's the thing. Like, I think essential oils are wonderful and useful and they work. I think supplements are wonderful and useful and they work. I think a cleanse can be wonderful and useful and work and make you healthier. But I feel like there's a lot of people in the health and wellness space out to make a buck. And you just have to be wary of that, because there's so many good intentioned people that want to be healthy and well, that there's bad intentioned people on the other side that want to take advantage of that because they can make money off it. And not even always bad intentioned people, because there are a lot of good intentioned people who also see the profit in something and want to help people and have a product that really works. But I guess this one would almost correlate with like my first do of health is the simplest, cheapest things you can do can make the biggest impact on your health. And I think it can be overwhelming for people to be healthy because they feel like they have to buy all these products and they have to change all these things and spend all this money. And you really don't. It can be a lot simpler and cheaper than anyone makes it out to be healthy. So start with those lifestyle changes, the things that are simple and easy and are day in, day out habits for you, and making changes there are going to make the biggest impact. Like consuming one supplement but still having an awful sleep schedule, not working out at all, having an awful diet, it's not going to do anything for you. But if you really get like a great sleep schedule where you're getting deep sleep and you prioritize that, then you are eating good, healthy, nutritious, locally sourced seasonal foods, and you are moving your body daily. Like if you start to change those habits and have those really unlock, like yeah, maybe the supplement's something you add in the future and it just helps your health even more. But those are the things that you really want to be addressing first. So don't feel like you have to be investing a bunch of money in products. The second don't of health is don't stress out about how to get healthy and overstudy or overread about it. And this comes right after my 5th do was learn to learn about the body and love to learn about the body and be a student. But I guess like the theme of this episode is we overcomplicate everything. And I think we get too overwhelmed sometimes by the amount of information we have out there. Yeah, it can be overwhelming when you start to read about something and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to change this. I don't know how to implement this. And I think really, to be honest, like Kinda Crunchy, one of the reasons we created it is because Jensen and I both felt like all the health information we're reading is like very advanced and hard to absorb and make into applicable daily practices. And then we wanted to bring it to a place where it was more conversational and fun and able to just be like, okay, this can be simple. And like I said, the small things like taking walks and getting good sleep and drinking water and spending time in nature, you've heard it, I'm not going to keep repeating it a million times, are the best things for your health. And so don't stress over like, I need to read all about this because I am dying if I don't do XYZ. Like, newsflash, we're all dying. The day we were born, we started to die, and we're all going to die. And I know that sounds morbid, but I love to give that reminder on here because sometimes health just seems so overwhelming, and it's good to just keep the perspective of no matter how healthy you are here, we're all going to die. So it's really that balance of like, yes, do what you can and take care of your body, but it can't be like your God or your idol to take care of your body, because that's just going to be the most unhealthy thing you can do. Okay, the third don't is fall into fad diets and quick fixes. I feel like everybody today has the answer, solution, or diet. A lot of times, like I said, they just want you to buy in or spend money on the things they're trying to sell you. Everybody's body is different. So sometimes there is a supplement or a diet that worked really great for one person, but it might not work for you the same or at all, because your body is different. And that goes back to being your own doctor and knowing what you need and what your body needs. And so I was sharing on here how in February I did this pretty intense diet and cleanse. I wouldn't recommend that to anyone else. it's because I feel very in touch with my body. I know what's going on with it. And I knew I was in a good place mentally to do that. And I knew I was in a place physically where I needed that. But I would never like say, oh, here's the plan I did for this diet, because I don't think that's healthy, because your body is different than mine. You need different things. You're in a different place mentally and physically. And so I just think when anyone's trying to sell you on a quick fix, be wary of that. And sometimes people aren't even trying to sell you on a quick fix or a fad diet. They're like, truly, this has changed my life and I want people to know about it. And that's amazing. I just still would caution you to be careful with falling into a trap of like, oh, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that. Because I think you can just get in the wheel of like trying all these different things and then be like, well, nothing works, because it's not unique to you and your body's needs. So that really goes back to being your own doctor and learning and applying that all to your body and health. Okay, 2 left, 2 more don'ts of being the healthiest you. Number 4 is don't blindly trust any resource. Everyone's an expert these days. Anyone can put whatever info they want online or tell you something is true without any backing, and we all just believe them. It's like TikTok is the worst for this. I'm convinced of it. Like, it's literally just people can say whatever and we see it and we scroll and just tuck it away in our brain as truth, like without any checking. Now, I'm not saying I want everything fact checked, but I'm saying don't trust the internet blindly, okay? Research and learn and find different credible sources that you believe in and cross-check things. And also, in conjunction with don't trust the internet blindly, don't trust your doctor blindly. Same thing. Go to multiple doctors when you have something going on and get multiple opinions, and then also check it with these other experts' opinions and read and research on your own and come to a conclusion that's right for you and what you believe is the right path with all the information. I just think it's important that we aren't just blindly trusting any resource, because you never know people's motives or if they're just pushing out content or information without truly having researched it themselves. So you have to do your due diligence and research it all yourself. Okay, the 5th and last don't of being the healthiest you is don't become restrictive, and try to remember that 80-20 balance of it all. So you've heard us preach this a million times here. It's all about balance, 80-20, 80% like putting in the effort to be the healthiest you, and 20% giving yourself grace for the fact that life happens and we can't control every single facet of it, and that we need to have flexibility in our lives and health. So yeah, make the healthy changes where you can, and then the other 10 to 20% of the time, enjoy life and give yourself grace and don't be stressed about it. So, I mean, eating the cake at the party with people you love over good conversation is going to be a lot better for your health than not going to the party at all because you're not allowing yourself to eat the cake because you're scared of white sugar and seed oils. Like, that's going to be more unhealthy than going to the party, enjoying the cake, and being like, okay, I eat a clean, healthy diet all the time and do all these things to take care of myself, and I had one piece of cake. Your body can deal with that. Your body can adapt to that when you take care of yourself and prioritize your health. That's not going to like kill you over right there. And again, we're all going to die anyway someday. So even if it did, at least you'd go out eating cake, right? But that was my last one. What a way to end it. Yeah, I hope this was just like a short, quick episode. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope it wasn't boring. I don't think I rambled too badly. I might have talked fast. I feel like I can get to talking real fast when I'm on my own. So I hope that you have a wonderful day and can apply some of these do's and don'ts of health. And as always, please just leave us a review if you haven't, or like or comment or anything like that. Share this with your friends if you enjoyed the podcast. And we just love you all for being here and listening. So have the best day, guys. Bye. Remember, although we talk all things health and wellness here, this is not medical advice, and you should always seek out your medical professional for further questions. Thanks again for listening. Please remember to share, comment, and subscribe to help support our podcast. Remember, although we talk all things health and wellness here, this is not medical advice, and you should always seek out your medical professional for further questions. Thanks again for listening. Please remember to share, comment, and subscribe to help support our podcast.